Rock and roll doggy.
Sort of a musical journey, really, you know. No, it's a musical journey.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rock and Roll Doggies. This is our podcast, two lifelong friends breaking down music. It's been important in our lives. I'm Jason Acquisto, and this is my friend since we were just teenagers. It's Don Pardue, the Smurf.
What's up?
How's everything going, my friend?
It's going well, going well.
So we have been taking our journey through album by album, the discography of U2. And we are up to 1997 and their release called Pop. And they are coming off of Zooropa, their biggest departure. And you know, what's next? Here they are. They've explored new sounds, new ideas, electronica, loops, techno beats, while still retaining that raw spirituality, but, you know, a sort of postmodern angst. We heard it as they head into the 21st century. 1997 here. And Don, your initial thoughts on the album Pop?
It's an extension. It's an extension of Zooropa, I think. You know, I was thinking about this earlier today about actually how colorful the album is, and I'm not talking about just the disc. If you remember, it was a rainbow colored disc.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the album cover, the disc, the stage show was very colorful. So they're transitioning from this. They were kind of black and white during Joshua Tree and Rattle and Hum, and then they transitioned into this very avant-garde type of European rock that was, you know, still had a dark element to it. And then they come into Zooropa, things brighten up a little bit. And then you head into Pop, and even though the material is still you know, deep material, there's a dance component to the album. So it's, in one sense, there's a dichotomy there because you have this kind of a dance with vibe going on with mofo and discotheque, but you also have some very deep social commentary going on, a very critical look at the world as it was in 97.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is a bookend companion piece, if you will, to Zooropa. We were talking about this a minute ago. It seems like it was definitely 4 years between those two releases. It seemed like it was a long time, and I'm not sure how that happened. There was a lot of weirdness because they had the big tour, and they had to record this in a non-traditional way between tour legs or what have you, and yet it seemed like it was still kind of a companion. Maybe they should have put the whole thing out before the tour. Looking back, it's easy to wonder why it was disjointed like that, but it does continue some of the same sounds and some of the same you know, exploration, if you will. Is it wrong to call it a companion piece? That's what I say, even though 4 years happened between the two.
No, it's not. It's and you use the word bookend, and I think that's very appropriate because this is the bookend of an era of U2, and then they completely change and kind of revert back to an older, more traditional sound in 2001. So I think this is the last album where U2 really pushed themselves into being really into a very uncomfortable area. And in fact, I think it was Bono or Edge said that this is about as far as U2 can be pushed and still be U2.
Well, it certainly was a departure for Zooropa, and this continued that. I think it's a little darker, like you mentioned. I also think it's more rich and textured in some places. I think it's more fully realized. I think that it's the better of the two. If you remember, I did not give Zooropa a super high mark, although there were some parts of it I thought were great. And we both agreed that it was not a strong piece, start to finish. It was inconsistent, even though bright spots. Pop, I think, is a lot stronger, a lot more mature. It has this weariness about it and this kind of a cynicism about it. And it's a lot more complex, I believe. Where did I read this? I read an article. Somebody called it exhilaratingly complex, which I thought was pretty cool because it has this kind of, you know, high energy, a lot going on. The two producers, Flood and who's the other guy? Howie.
Oh, Howie B.
Howie B. those two guys, I think, were on the previous album, Zooropa, and they kind of continue that same sound on this one, making it more complex, and I think a more fully realized vision. It just has a lot more good sounding sounds to me. It makes me feel stuff. I really dig it, and a lot of that is just, well, why do you think it's better than the other one? Some people think Zooropa is better. That's the subjectivity. That's the beauty of it. I don't even know why. I just dig this one a lot more. I mean, isn't that the whole point?
I think that if we look back on Zooropa had one song, and we know what that song is, that is at the very top tier of the U2 catalog. I don't think there's a song on this album that is a top tier song. However, there are a lot of good songs on this album. Zooropa had maybe a couple of good songs, a really good song, and then the rest kind of just they just kind of fall through into this area of mediocrity. I think Pop is a better album if you view it as a whole than if you break it down song by song. So there's a lot of good songs on this album. It's missing that masterpiece, and then there's one bad song on the album, which we'll get to. But
I think I know what that is. You're right. It's more consistent, and you're exactly right. There's a lot more. There was not an obvious choice for the best track off the album, and yet I think there's several that are super strong. Maybe not in the pantheon of top 10 all-time U2 songs, but like just underneath that, kind of in that next tier that I think are really strong ones. And we'll obviously go through song by song.
Let me throw this. Just a quote to kind of piggyback on what we talked about how the album kind of flows. But Bono has said the album begins at a party and ends at a funeral.
Okay.
So again, I think that just speaks to how important it is to view the album as a whole. And we don't do that now. And it's a shame we don't. But back then you viewed the album more as an album instead of a collection of songs. So
I never heard that quote. That's a great quote. But you're right. A collection of songs, not an album. And to me, this is an album. In fact, I had to laugh because my wife said, do you like this one? It's not her favorite. And I said, I do. I think it's a really good album. The first side is really strong. And the second side, and I could just tell her reaction was, she just looked at me and was like, well, the first few songs and, as opposed to the second set of songs. And I had to look up because I had this on CD. Okay. I never bought this on a format that would utilize the side one or side two. Don't even know where the cutoff would be. I mean, do you have any idea?
No.
So, but you're right. To your point that they're not viewed as albums anymore, but collections of songs. I think this has got a harder edge, more consistent. I don't know how you don't like this version, not you. I don't know how a person doesn't like this version of U2. Musically, the ironic, kind of tongue-in-cheek approach to everything. They're turning the whole thing upside down. They're making fun of their own personality, and kind of they become this ironic version of themselves.
But if you latched on to U2 during the Joshua Tree era, and now all of a sudden they transition 10 years to this version of U2, a lot of quote unquote fans are going to be challenged to keep up with them.
For sure.
I've heard people tell me before, I love U2 back in the 80s, but then they kind of got weird in the 90s. And a lot of people couldn't keep up with what they were actually, what it was all about. They kind of missed the joke, in other words.
Yeah. And a part of that, I think, is how long you'd been a fan and how long you'd been following it and how important it was to you. And
if you want to look at music superficially, or if you want to kind of get into the weeds on what this is really all about and not write it off as just being just this kind of silly pseudo dance pop album.
As far as they went with the earnest, spiritual, righteous persona, they had to swing it back equally the other way.
Yeah.
Equally as far the other way into the self-parody, the rock star, I think, to balance that whole thing out. And you don't have to be a super nerd, go all the way deep into it like we do. I think, it helps to get the joke.
Let me interject something. If that's true, and I totally agree with that. If that's true and they achieve balance, then they split that balance right in half on their next album.
Yeah, I think so too. Because you won't, I don't know, maybe not in half, but
right. Somewhere closer to the middle. Yeah.
The rhythm, the textures, a lot of playing with vocals, a lot of whispering, a lot of different guitar experimentation. Edge was deliberately trying to get away from that echo guitar sound that he had become known for. Many think that he would, he kind of invented that sound. It's very U2, the U2 sound, the echoey guitar. And so they were trying to get away from that. And you can hear a lot of experimentation. A lot of stuff is put through a lot of goop electronic effects, and it's pretty cool in a lot of places. I think it works for the most part, and a lot of drum sounds that are different, sound textures, layered riffs, and runs we had never heard before, like just guitar runs in different places. And so it's building a whole atmosphere that I think is just, I don't know how you don't like it. I do. And again, I think there were parts of Zooropa, but I think that this is a stronger album.
I think that, to be fair to those people who don't appreciate it, it's not an album that you can pick up like, say, the Joshua Tree, or maybe War, or Rattle and Hum for that matter. And it doesn't grab you initially in terms of its listenability. So you kind of have to hang on for the ride a little bit to be able to appreciate the album. And I'm probably repeating myself, but I don't think some people were willing to do that. And I think because of that, there's a kind of a large discrepancy on how this album is viewed. There's some people that view it as a near masterpiece, and there are some people that view it as crap.
It's a deep dive for sure.
Yep.
And what's funny, I think, also is when I first was prepping for this episode, I Googled the name of the album, and the first thing that comes up under, Google, it'll show you the results, and then it'll show you questions that they could answer, like, I guess, most popular questions that are Googled. Is pop underrated? And so that was like one of the first most popular, I guess, queries, or whoever thinks of those. That's a popular question. I think a lot of people think it's underrated because they didn't appreciate it at the time. And I think I'm probably one of those people. I didn't come to it super late, but I didn't get it in 1997 for sure. I got it a couple of years later. And for some reason, I was disenchanted during that period. I was listening to a lot of U2, just not a lot of like new U2. So it took me a minute to get there. And when I discovered it, I know exactly. This album makes me think of the time in my life, and you've been to my apartment on Lake Nora Court in northeast side of Indianapolis, and that's where I was living right before I got married. This album makes me think of that time in my life specifically. So it's a good time to be reminded of, but that's what it was. It definitely was that period of time for me. And do you want to listen to a little bit of a song before we jump in?
Yeah, let's do Discotheque.
You can reach, but you can't grab it. You can hold it, control it. You can't bag it. You can push, but you can't direct it. Circulate, regulate, oh no, you cannot connect it. You know it's you.
That's Discotheque, the first single off of the album Pop by U2. This is Rock and Roll Doggies with Jason here and the Smurf. And Discotheque, the first single. Don, how do you not like this song? It's so cool. The buzzy, futuristic guitar, bossy. Can a guitar can a guitar actually have a dystopian vibe? I don't know. It seems so cool. I love this song. It's got all that lovey-dovey stuff.
It's I don't love it. It makes sense. It would be the lead track on the album. I did not know this. I kind of wrote it off years ago, and it was a song skip on the CD player. But now that I know a little bit more about it, Bono has said that it's a riddle about love. So if you know that the song's about love, more so than this sort of commentary on 90s dance club music, then it puts the song, I think, in a deeper perspective. Once you know that, it changes everything you hear about the song. So you can reach it, but you can't grab it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hold it, control it. You can't bag it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you keep that focus as to what he's talking about, I think for me, I tend to appreciate the song more.
Yeah, it goes a little deeper than "Love to Love You, Baby."
Yeah.
Okay. This is not just
Right.
because it's a dance song doesn't mean that it's shallow. I do love the visceral feeling of it. I love the sound itself. And that's great. That's great. Lyrics, great, deeper meaning. But the key changes, the distorted mix of rock and club music there. It didn't have to work because we've heard, look at a lot of dance rock music doesn't work, or it works in limited ways. Not everything the Bee Gees did was a success. A lot of groups tried to put out, Rolling Stones were criticized for Miss You and that era that they put out, Emotional Rescue, because that was their disco time and it just didn't sound like Rolling Stones. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work, but I think this does, and it just happened to be also something you can dance to.
But I think it works because the album is so textured, so that it doesn't come off as a throwaway dance album. There's a lot going on sonically, and there's a lot going on lyrically. And when you have that happen, you can tend to give it more credence as a rock and roll album, even if it has a lot of dance component to it.
Yes.
It has a lot of rock and roll spirit. But, Discotheque is, whether you love it, like it, don't like it, it makes sense it would be the lead single because it's the statement piece. It's like the Zoo Station, where they come out and say, hey, this is what we're doing now. And this is probably, along with Mofo, the most ambitious track on the album. And they stuck it first to slap you in the face again, like Zoo Station did, by saying, this is going to be different.
It is an announcement of what's happening now. I think it has some clever lyrics too. I love you're chewing bubble gum. You know what it is, but you still want some. We've all been, we've had the kind of the idea that you're spending life with meaningless pursuits, shallow people, not being challenged in certain ways, and just that, hey, maybe living below your potential, whatever. You're chewing bubble gum. It's not the best you can be doing, but hey, it feels pretty good. It's easy to rest on your laurels or whatever. I'm not sure if this is the intent, but to me, it's you want to be. It goes back to the vanity of life. You want to have your life mean something. It's the underlying mantra of who am I? I know it's about love and all of that, but to me, it goes back to, are you doing your best? Are you living the life you should? You're chewing bubble gum. It's not worth much, but hey, feels pretty good.
I'm going to rain on your parade with what I think he meant, not what you interpret it as, because those are sometimes one and the same or sometimes not. That's the beauty and enigma of listening to music. But
it's a musical journey.
I have read that it's a reference to the drug culture that existed in clubs, which is why Which is why I said, you know what that is, but you still want some. Just throwing that in there, kind of.
Yeah, no, I think that can exist alongside my
Yeah,
own
sure,
interpretation. Yeah.
sure.
I also think there's a self-referential aspect to it. You want to be the song you hear in your head. That is the lyric. You want to be the person you sing about, the image that you built. You know, he's got this image by now, 1997, that he's cultivated and built. And here's this Bono that now we're taking the ironic point of view on, and he's kind of turning himself inside out. I think there are different clues throughout, little Easter eggs throughout the lyrics in this album that talk about kind of his own, you know, facing that and like, is this who he really is, who he wants to be in public? You want to be the song you hear in your head, the song that you hear in your head. He wants to be kind of the person that he's cultivated as this public image, but is that really him? Is he being honest with himself? And I think we'll get into deeper examples of that, culminating in the final song of the album here. But I mean, that's, I think, the first little clue that he's thinking about, who am I and who's Bono to the public?
One thing that grabbed me in reference to kind of the dichotomy that this album represents with the superficial dance pop, that's lowercase p, vibe of the album that kind of meshes with more complex components. But I'm kind of taken by, but you take what you can get because it's all you can find. Oh, you know, there's something more. That's actually a fairly introspective piece of lyric there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next two lines, but tonight, boom cha discotheque. Mm-hmm. So it's got this almost this rock vibe to the first three lines of that verse. And then the next two lines, it kind of just slides into this boom cha tonight, discotheque.
Right where this happens. Listen to this.
Would you take it to get there? 'Cause it's all that you can find. Well, you know there's something more.
In my notes, but you know there's something more. Tonight. Always that word tonight. It harkens back to so many great songs in the past with U2. I think about Surrender. I think of, you know, many other songs in their past catalog that talk about tonight. But you know there's something more. Tonight. Ooh. I love that. Ooh.
So is this, for you, is this we're not going to rate all the songs, but I'm just curious for this one. Do you put this in the top tier, middle tier, or lower tier
of this album?
Yeah, for this album.
This is a top tier.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think this is great. I like this song a lot. I think this is one of the strongest sides of a U2 album. I think it's a great succession. The first 5 songs are just strong, start to finish, and it doesn't vary a lot. I think they're all just really just bangers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you get into the next few are up and down a little bit more.
I view it just the opposite.
Oh, it's one of the weaker ones for you.
Well, not only that, but I think that back end of the album is actually the best, the strongest part of the album. Huh. I'm not suggesting there aren't good pieces in the front part on the first quote unquote side of the album.
Yeah. Interesting.
Track 2, Do You Feel Loved?
Originally, it had a question mark at the end of the song title, and he took it out as a conscious choice.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he didn't want it to come off. Yeah, because he didn't want it to come off as too confrontational, too serious, too dark, or too dramatic. Not do you feel loved? It's a statement. And I think that's such an interesting choice that they had to wrestle with and came up with. No, let's take question mark off.
How many artists would really contemplate a question mark as a integral part of kind of encapsulating the meaning of a
To
song?
me, it seems like a
No, you
Spinal
do it.
Tap moment where it's like, no, we're not going to take off the bloody question mark. What difference does it make? To me, it seems like it could have been a real trivial,
Although for you too, it's probably a 3-week conversation.
That's right. Adam over there scratching his chin. Well, I don't know. A musical journey.
Larry leaves the room for about 2 weeks, comes back and lets them all figure it out.
I think it's a strong track. I think it's a number 2 of the strong opening sequence. That bass really turns me on. Funky, chunky. I like that space age guitar, very fuzzy. I think it's melodic, and it's got this. They talk about they wanted to create a sexy groove.
They did with this one.
They did. I think this is one of the sexier. I don't know what that means, but it does, I think, achieve this sexiness. I think it's another example of lyrics that show he's shedding and surrendering this rock star persona. Okay, hear me out. Take my clothes, boots, and all of that. He's stripping down to the naked, the real me. Take this tangle of
Conversation.
Turn it into your own prayer. He's stripping everything down. He's saying, take this tangle of a conversation, everything that he's built up as the persona of U2 and his writing and his, all of that. And, strip it away and find out who the real me is. And what does that mean to you, the U2 listener? So I think it's fans taking Bono's lyrics, his personal thoughts as their own ethos or belief basis. And he knows that's been happening. He knows what people think of him and how he's been, kind of curating that through the years. I think it's all about his relationship with fans. And listen, I might be completely off my nut. I might be just like, okay, it's a dance song. But I think it's all about his relationship with the fans and how they perceive his lyrics and his persona.
It's a metaphorical album. So
Yes.
Joshua Tree was not, Rattle and Hum was not. The Zooropa was to some degree, I think, but not to this extent. This is what you see is really not what it appears to be, which is the beauty of it. That in and of itself is a statement.
That's very un-U2 like, because they're very everything was wearing your heart on your sleeve, complete transparency and vulnerability. For a long time. What you see is what you get. WYSIWYG. And it's got one of the great lyrics of this album in it too. It looks like the sun, but it feels like the rain.
There's a lot of sex on this song, obviously. When I was listening to this a lot in 97, that's where I viewed this as, it's such a sexy song, like you said. And it's, you got my head filled with songs. You got my shoelaces undone. Take my shirt, go on and take it off me. You can tear it up if you can tie me down.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's
like
pure sex.
just because the album's a metaphorical album doesn't mean that I have to go there consistently with every song.
Yeah.
I do follow that mindset with some other tracks, particularly on the back side of the album, but I don't do it this. This is just I don't know. It's just a sexy song to me.
Yeah, it's got a lot of visceral energy and a lot of sensuality.
Yep.
It might not have all of the deeper meanings that I'm attaching to it, but it doesn't have to. It's just, to me, it's a great song because it feels good, and it also I think has a lot of depth. I will say that it reminded me of a later song, much later in the U2 catalog. Reminds me of Yahweh. It foreshadows the Yahweh from Atomic Bomb. Mm-hmm. Take these shoes, take this shirt. Different song, different meaning there.
That's I'll go there. Yeah, I think that's an astute observation.
Maybe looking back when we do that album, we'll talk about how, and maybe he thought of that, maybe not, but it pinged that in my head. So I think they're just stripping everything away and saying, okay, you got us. We're a bunch of wankers, let's make this absurd, but also let's play some really good music.
But you know what? If you didn't buy into the parody on this album, and I did not see them on this tour. It's one of the few tours since I started listening to U2 that I missed. And if you went to the tour and you still don't get the parody, you'll never get parody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
If you listen to this album, if you saw the tour, I've seen video. I didn't see it in person, but I've seen a live footage from it. But if you don't get it from the album or the show, then you're a lost cause for satire.
Lost cause. I
Yeah.
remember a friend of ours who is a fan told me he didn't get this whole period with them because he heard the song Lemon, which is off Zooropa, and it just didn't click with him. And he kind of wrote off the whole, that album and this album and this whole period as just them being weird. Okay. That doesn't make him wrong, or that just doesn't make, it's just not his thing. It's not his thing to get as deep into it. But I found that interesting because it didn't occur to him. And to be fair, it didn't occur to me. Like I said, I was a couple of years late on this album as it happened. So I wasn't exactly deep into quote unquote getting it when it first came out. But we digress. I think this song kicks ass. I think it's fun and it is sexy, which I think is one thing that can be said about track 3. Talk to me, Don, about Mofo.
I hate to be redundant, but again, there's this dichotomy here. This is a solid club tune. It's the most dance-driven track that U2's probably ever done, and yet he's speaking about the loss of his mother. So he said this. Is about performing the song live. Some nights it would really surprise me what an emotional place I would get to. Mother, am I still your son? I've waited so long to hear you say so. Mother, you left and made me someone. Now I'm still a child, but no one tells me no. I'm looking forward to meeting my mother. I'm fully expecting to in the proper place and time. I hope I have a backstage pass. I mean, that snippet there that I just conveyed it's very, very personal, and it's delivered in this really solid dance tune.
Yeah, let's listen to that part right here.
Yeah, let's do.
Am I still your son? I'm waiting for so long to hear you say so.
The song is Mofo. It's off Pop. This is Rock and Roll Doggies. And we're talking about the song Mofo, which is really about his mother. Many times this has been paired on that tour live with I Will Follow for obvious reasons. It is an incredibly deep and personal song, yet it is set against this heavily processed techno feel. The changes, the key changes and the tempo changes throughout this song give it a very techno club feel. And what do we know about club music? But that's one thing that I do know as an aspect of that style. And then it drops in some of the best lyrics and little phrasing.
There's some great lines in this one.
God-shaped hole.
Looking for baby Jesus under the trash.
Mother sucking rock and roll. Been around the back, been around the front. What did you think that little snippet was saying?
I didn't know.
I didn't know for a long time, and I didn't care.
I don't think it's in the liner notes, is it?
It was on. I looked up and on Lyric Genius or whatever.
That's just an example of how textured this album is. When you put these little pseudo lyrics in there, and you go, "Wait a minute, what did he say? What did he say?"
I thought it was Little Red Dress for many years. I sang it that. Did you?
You're right. I thought it was
Little Red Dress.
Yeah. Some Prince would write.
And that was okay, and that fit, and it would occur to me once in a while. Was it?
I think.
I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I think that was in the, because that's probably where you got it, because I got it.
That's the way I heard it. Mother sucking. So you left and made me someone. Now I'm still a child. No one tells me no. That's a kid whose mother was taken away, and that helped to make him into someone who he is now. The pain from his mother dying with him as a young child, that helped him to grow, and that created the person that he is now, and the lyrics and the man of the songwriting and Bono, who he is. But now he's still a child emotionally. He still has that need. He has that inner child, and he has this emotional fragility, and no one tells me no.
Right.
He's a fucking rock star. And he knows. This is a very self-aware little piece of lyric, because he is he's not even talking about how, oh, poor me, my mother died. He's kind of saying, my mother died. Because of that, I was able to draw on that pain and become who I am. I'm a rock star, and I get whatever I want. And that's really what it is.
And I'm still a child.
I'm still a child. Yeah.
And not in the innocent way, but kind of in the selfish, hey, this is mine, you're stopping your feet, give me what I want kind of
immature,
way.
Underdeveloped.
Yeah.
He has not become his full self, and in many ways not grown up. As a child, when he lost his mother, he became super emotional and in touch with his own feelings and able to express those, became the writer that he is, but he also was emotionally stunted and never really got kind of what you get from having a mother from young teenager on, the nurturing and the support. And there was a void there. So still looking for the face I had before the world was made.
There are a lot of just really good one-liners.
I know.
White dopes on punk, staring into the flash, looking for the father of my two little girls.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because that's another self-reference there of he's looking for who he is. See, this is my theory, or this is my thought from earlier. Every song on the album has the sense of him trying to determine who he is at this stage of life. He worked so hard to become a good writer, singer, performer. He's a rock star. He's at the top. Now, who is he? He's looking for the father of his two little girls. Who is this man?
Yeah.
He's looking for the face he had before the world was made. I think that's just excellent writing. Love that.
I've always been drawn to the outro. Soothe me, mother, rule me, father, move me, brother, woo me, sister, soothe me, mother, rule me, father, show me, mother, show me, mother, show me, mother, show me, mother.
What is that about, you think?
I don't know. I guess the woo me, sister is the part I think that throws me off a little bit, because he didn't have a sister. I get the soothe me, mother, rule me, father, because I think that fits in not only to his family dynamic, but for the family dynamic of most people. If you're a male, you gravitate toward your mother. It's to kind of appeal to your softer side, and you gravitate to your father for this hard love, strict disciplinarian piece. It's interesting. He closes with "Show me, mother," 6 times. So that's how the song ends.
Yeah, it might just be throwing out there kind of the picture of the ideal family unit and how he fits with that whole.
What is Woo Me Sister then?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know. It's just I can't say. Adam. Oh, fuck it. I don't know. It's a musical journey.
Let's go to track 4. If God will send his angels. Oh, so question. No pun intended. Did that one end in a question mark?
It's not a question.
Well, I guess so. You're probably right.
I mean,
it's an incomplete sentence. So
it's a query.
It can't have a question mark because it's not a sentence.
Nobody else here, baby. Self-examination, true self.
One of the better songs on the album.
Oh, you're not wrong there.
Top tier. Top third.
Top tier. Top tier. Oh, you are not wrong there, and that's not really a mystery. It is such a good song. It's the sense of, I'm going to just go deep into it real quick, the sense of evolving faith, spiritual self. It is obviously the first real big look at who is God. A lot of people will say, oh, this is God, is him doubting his faith in God, and does he still believe the same thing? I don't think it's it's a weakness. I think it's a strength of evolving. The more you question, it's because you're growing and stretching your own faith and understanding. So, first of all, the blind leading the blonde.
I was just looking at that when you.
Ugh.
It's
The blind leading the blonde. It's the stuff
stuff
of country songs.
that's
Ugh,
good.
man, so good. But there's nobody else here, baby. He's saying it to himself, and he's saying, God, can you help? Can you do something here? Are you, it's the old axiom, God is all powerful and all loving. Well, is he both? If he was all powerful and all loving both, there'd be no evil in the world, because he could change everything because he's all powerful, and he would because he's all loving. And that's the old kind of the problem with the logic of the Christian faith, of saying, which one is it God? Is he not able to or not willing to step in and help in certain ways? But we'll get to more of that later. The lyrics on this song are great. It's a lovely classic U2 sound. It gets away from the club layered, textured syncopation of the first three songs, and it's a great breakdown in this string of, you got boom, 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 and then you got this ballad with the great lyrics. The Cartoon Network turns into the news. Just such good little chunks of lyric.
Again, if you're looking at this at the macro level, and you're looking at the album as a collective entity, then this is the song in the club where people go sit down, because they're slow dancing now.
Yeah.
It's a slow dance song after three boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Now it's a slow dance song, but it's not the throwaway song. If anything, it's like we said, it's one of the top tier songs on the album. There's just so many good little snippets. Does love light up your Christmas tree? The next minute you're blowing a fuse. I don't know why, but this is just, it's not deep writing, but it's just good. Where is the faith and the love? It's not a great philosophical question, but it just hits home so well there.
And it's sung with such earnest passion. It doesn't come off as just chintzy and that it's some pop lyric. If that was Backstreet Boys singing it, for lack of a better, anybody who's just a pop star, when he sings "Where is the love," you feel like he really is from his soul wondering, where is it? What's happening? So great lyrics, and just a lovely, and it still has some of the, even though it's a classic U2 song, it doesn't have a lot of outlandish new stuff. It's got that kind of sweeping. How do you describe that sound?
I don't know, but I like
on
how
the chorus. This one right here. Listen.
There's something to go if God will send his angels.
Here it is. Listen.
This song, again, we've covered this on our last podcast, but this was written during Zooropa session. Again, there was a lot of good music written during Zooropa that they pushed back to pop, which, as we discussed before we queued this up, is, if that's the case, and why did it take them 4 years to record this? But
together they make a really fruitful era. Even though I think this album is better than Zooropa, I think together they're both strong because of just all the songs that were written and produced during that era.
Kind of to your point about calling God out on the condition of the world, in U2 by U2, here's what Bono said, talking about this song. It's a song of quiet anger at the way the world is and God's failure to intervene. A few people around me had experienced some awfulness that they just couldn't forgive God for. Personally, I don't look at the world as a place where God is in charge of everything that happens. I think it's up to us how much we let God into our lives. It's a world of wild and unexpected winds, earthquakes, and tsunamis where accidents can happen. I don't blame God for them. I think this is what happened when we threw God out of the garden, which is my own interpretation of what happened in Eden.
Yeah, and something that struck me, I think I put this up on Instagram. God's got his phone off the hook, babe. Would he even pick up if he could?
Yep.
Is he able to do anything? And if he could do something, would he? Would he pick up even if he could? So it's that wrestling with the whole, why doesn't God step in? I like the way he sees that. That's an artist's perspective too. A lot of people see the world as black and white, but as an artist, I don't think he sees it the same way. Theologically, that's something that, there is no easy answer to that. It's the problem of evil in the world. But the lyrics go on. It's been a while since we saw that child hanging around this neighborhood. I love that. See his mother dealing in a doorway. See Father Christmas with a begging bowl. And Jesus' sister's eyes are a blister. The high street never looked so low. I don't know if we need to go in and dissect this and say this is exactly what this means, and this person in this neighborhood, and the mother is this, and father. I just think that's some beautiful ass lyrics.
It's a complimentary piece to Wake Up Dead Man.
Sure is.
In a perfect world, this would be on one side. The B side would be Wake Up Dead Man.
That's a double feature right there.
Yep, it is. Yep, it's like sneaking in to see Vision Quest and Stop Making Sense all in one ticket.
Who would do that?
What kind of idiots would do that?
Okay. So this is Rock and Roll Doggies, two lifelong friends breaking down music that's been important in our lives. And it's Don there, the Smurf, because he used to wear a royal blue sweatsuit as the trainer and manager for the high school basketball team. And so he got the name Smurf. A little backstory for you, a little origin story. I'm Jason, and we are talking about U2 as we go through the catalog. We're on Pop. If God will send his angels, I also think it's cool because he talks about Jesus being in show business.
Yeah.
And then another self-referential thing. I don't want to lie. I want to feel the song. He wants to be the person he's created. I think the persona there. I don't know. Maybe I was looking for ways to show that, but still. All right, moving on. In my mind, we're still on side one. Okay, I think this is the first.
You can turn the disc over whatever you want.
Please turn the disc over. So the next track is Staring at the Sun. What do you think about this song, Don?
It's like Oasis meets the Beatles. It was the last song recorded on the album. And it was recorded at about 4 a.m. This is one of those songs. It has the weirdest lyric, though, probably in the U2 catalog. There's an insect in your ear. If you scratch, it won't disappear. Yeah. It's going to itch and burn and sting. But again, this is where we go deeper into the music. And I think to sum it up, the gist of this is, are you going to turn a blind eye to the evils of the world, to be oblivious to that?
You want to see what the scratching brings.
Yes.
You're not afraid to ask the hard questions.
Yeah. So do you want to live in that ignorance is bliss mindset, or do you want to open your eyes and see the world for as it really is? And I don't think that there's an answer to that question in the song. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's the purpose of it, is to say, here's what we're up against as people with a heart and a mind, is that the insect is in your ear. And that's the idea of, maybe it's that question of good and evil, or the question that plagues you, or who you are and your own place in the world. If you scratch, it won't disappear. The more you dig at it, the deeper the question becomes, and the more it's going to irritate you. And it's unpleasant. And it's not easy to ask yourself hard questions in life and to confront your own doubts and fears. And is that what it is? If you scratch, you won't disappear. It's going to itch and burn and sting, but you want to see what the scratching brings. You want to get at it and solve it, whatever that is. And it hurts. It's not fun, but that's what I think this kind of goes with the theme of the album, getting to the essence of who you are and who the band is, because they were taking kind of that approach of stripping down. It's funny because no,
go ahead.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say, this segment of the podcast is brought to you by Deep Woods Off. Aren't you glad I interrupted you for that, Jim? Go ahead. You only thought you had something worthwhile to add.
Deep Woods Off. God dang it, Peggy.
My ear's itching.
God dang it. How about this? Deep Woods off. Okay. Man, you talk about dang old goddamn man, Deep Woods off. How about this imagery? I think the whole thing is painting this picture of lying in a meadow with your lover in a summer dress, late summer, creeping anxiety about the world. Just want to get under cover. It's kind of sexy because you just want to hide in that person, take refuge. It's like a cover me kind of thing, or whereas staring at the sun, the opposite of like getting under cover and hiding from the world. Staring at the sun is confronting the reality, seeing the reality of life, the hard questions, the insect in your ear and all that, but how the world is right now, unflinching, honest. 1997 was some weird days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird now for different reasons, but remember, everything before the pandemic wasn't simple and easy. It was still just a different kind of weird.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's what the song's about. You got this feeling of this sublime existence, but there's this anxiety. There's this creeps are crawling over me. Right? I think that's so cool. It's very uncomfortable. Like you said, it's one of the most bizarre lyrics, but I think it works.
I have to correct myself, though. This actually wasn't the last song recorded on Now. I think Last Night on Earth was. So I had to correct myself on that. Something that I kind of maybe subconsciously began to kind of digest is that was more drawn to this album lately because of what's going on internationally.
Yeah.
And this song kind of speaks to that. Please really does.
Yeah.
I can't listen to Please now without really feeling something deeper than I felt in a long time listening to that song. And that the Last Night on Earth is kind of like that. I mean, I'm sorry, Staring at the Sun is kind of like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to immerse yourself in what's going on so you can be an informed citizen of the world, or do you want to turn a blind eye and pretend like it doesn't exist and hope that it goes away? Now,
rather go blind.
Leverage and being able to address what's going on in the Ukraine, but at the same time, I think there is a pull to keep ourselves engaged as citizens of the world, even though it can be emotionally challenging sometimes.
It is. If you scratch, it won't disappear. It's going to itch and burn. Being informed, looking at the news every day, trying to be a good person and a good citizen of the world and your own community. That's not easy. Sometimes I'd rather go blind. Sometimes I'd rather just not see it. Sometimes I'd rather just, right? Yeah, you're afraid of what you find. Exactly. I think that's almost a timeless thought that, like I said, in the 90s, it was, let's go back to way before that, the 60s, that they had their own problems, 70s, 80s, all the way through. It would be easier to not even see the pain and the difficulty.
Here's a throwback to If God Will Send His Angels. Referee won't blow the whistle. God is good, but will he listen?
That was my next thought. It's the recurring theme in this album. That's a literal statement there, too. That's like, God is good, but will he listen? Can God help, and will God help? Yeah. And of course, I love referee won't blow the whistle. Like, can somebody stop this? Like, right. Oh, they're letting them play.
Right.
God's letting them play. He swallowed the whistle.
Yeah, they're letting the guards put their hands all over each other.
Right.
Right. And that's something that I wrestle with. I mean, like a lot of people, let's just cut to the chase. We're really moved by what's going on in the Ukraine. And for me, it's kind of turning into anger, where I say, somebody's got to stop this. Blow the whistle. Somebody can't continue. We're losing tens of thousands of people. God's good, but is he listening to what we're ordering him to do?
Yeah, you're so right. Referee won't blow the whistle, and you're standing with your hands up, going, "Come on!"
Right. You're 2 feet away from it. Did you not see him? He threw an elbow.
Right. And I guess I love how that giant metaphysical challenge, that overwhelming universal question, is expressed in an idea of a referee blowing a whistle. The metaphor is is expressed, through this sports analogy. I love that because
Yeah.
it's just that's so you too.
It's one of those rare sports analogies that pops up in a U2 song.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
We are coming to another strong track. Next track, as we make our way through U2's Pop on Rock and Roll Doggies, the next track, Don, is Last Night on Earth. What do you think?
I think this was a song that your brother John had mentioned as having loved. Don't ask me how I know that, how I remember.
It's stuck in your head. It's something crawled in your ear.
Yeah, that's right.
Creeps are crawling over you.
I think it's a song that, and by the way, this was the song that was the last to be recorded on the album. It's a bit of a heavier song, a bit of the album has, like most albums do, you have peaks and valleys in terms of the melodic nature. I think it's a song that, and I've done this before, is that I tend to skip over. I skipped over this for many years, and I've kind of recently rediscovered it.
Why'd you skip it?
I think the reason I skipped it was because it was nudged in between Staring at the Sun, which I think melodically is the best song on the album, and Gone, which may be the best song on the album. So I didn't want to lull. I wanted to go ahead and, with my impatient self, and get to the good stuff.
But now you think different? You like it more than you did?
Yeah, well, it's I think part of this is, how old was I in 97? 29, 30. So
30.
Yeah, I mean, 35 years later, you tend to view this a little bit differently.
No, dude, you're not 65. No, your math is wrong. You're not 65 years old.
What did I
You
say?
said if you were 30 in 97 and then 35 years later.
Oh, 25. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you know what they say is you get old more quickly. So you got to give it away. She knows just what it's worth. She's living like it's the last night on earth. She feels the ground is giving way, but she thinks we're better off that way.
Yeah.
Again, kind of I don't know. It fits in thematically with what the album is. What's your take on it? I'm sure you have greater thoughts than I do.
Well, it's another she, the she that's doing something like Sadie in Surrender, like Running to Stand Still. She's like Far Away So Close. It's a narrative of a woman doing something. And I love that. I don't know why it popped out, to me as that kind of thing. She's not doing this. She's not doing that. And I like how it's, as compared to the woman in Far Away So Close, which is a bookend partner of this album. She's not waiting for anyone in this song, Last Night on Earth. She's not waiting for anyone. She's not beholden to her abusive relationship partner or whatever it was in Far Away So Close. And maybe that's not anything to do with it. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But to me, it's almost a redemption story or the other side of that kind of situation. I think it's a good song. It's so catchy. It's got a classic U2 sound. It became one of my favorites as I was preparing for this episode because I kind of rediscovered it. It wasn't one of my first favorites, and now I like it a lot more than I did. That whole background vocal of "You Got to Give It Away."
It's like Mofo in that respect, I think.
Yeah, listen to this right here.
You gotta give it away. You gotta give it away. Well, she don't care what it's worth. She's living like it's the last night of her.
It's Last Night on Earth. You got to give it away. Great background vocals. It was released with various versions, various remixes and acoustic versions of it. And at one point, one of the B-sides was a remake of the song Pop Music. New York, London, Paris, Munich. Everybody talk about pop music. And also it was released with a B-side of Happiness is a Warm Gun, a cover of the Beatles classic song.
Yep.
So I think they're just having a good time with trashing their own image, recording throwaway pop songs like Pop Music, and then doing doing the Beatles, which they've always loved doing their own take on classic songs. So I think they're having a lot of fun. Doesn't seem like it looking back at the arduous recording process and the chaos there. But I mean, but I love Last Night on Earth. It has those apocalyptic lyrics. The more you take, the less you feel. The less
Yeah.
you know, the more you believe.
Yeah. The less you know, the more you believe. That, here's a spoiler, that could be the lyric of the album, but it's not for me.
Well, it's
Like-
up there.
It is up there. You're right. I do like this. And this is kind of to your point about what you mentioned earlier. She's living next week now. You know she's going to pay it back somehow. The future is here at last. The past is too uncomfortable.
Good stuff. Yeah. I like the little housekeeping detail of she's at the bus stop with the news of the world and the sun, here it comes. I like the way it's phrased because he gives himself a little space to kind of act like he's thinking of it as he goes along. And the sun, here it comes. So I just think that's a nice delivery. And again, she's not waiting for anyone, not waiting on a savior to come. She's an independent, strong woman. And I think that's not unintentional. But
Well-
still, what is she? It's a metaphor. The whole album, like you pointed out, it's a metaphor. What is that? Who is she? She's humanity in 1997. That is like, living a certain way, like it's the end of the age. Is it that kind of thing? Living like it's her last night on earth, living in excess, doing things that she wouldn't normally do or that we wouldn't normally do. I don't know.
But this thought just occurred to me. If you look at where U2 is in their career here, it mirrors where the world is, and that we're coming into the new millennium.
Y2K.
Y2K, that's right. There's a lot of transition going on in the world in the late 90s
Mm-hmm.
with, again, Russia and so on and so forth. So we're coming to the end of the Clinton years.
That was my second term.
Uh-huh.
That was my second term. Y'all elected me a second time.
The internet at that point we just opened up this entire new world that we knew existed, but we didn't have exposure to.
Well, you think about the stages of the internet. The first stage was AOL, and I had that in like 90, 95, something like that. Okay,
What was your screen name?
I think it was not even clever. It was just my name. And then I realized you could do other stuff. So every day I'd go on and create a new one, and it would be like a character I remember thinking of this one is so cool. Vincent Vega, Travolta from Pulp Fiction. That was my invention. I'm Vincent Vega. I was just a fucking idiot. But
Say it. Yeah.
a Royale with cheese.
Right.
The AOL happened in the mid 90s, and I had that. And then this is 97. So we were starting to have it, but think about, I remember little things like when I started a job in 98, I
Right.
went to the job interview and I said to the guy, "Hey, I've seen your website." He's like, "Yeah, it's just our brochure. It's not even really a website." So websites were not even becoming a real thing, although email was a big deal. So we were just taking these baby steps. I was just starting to do our fantasy baseball stats on a website as opposed to pen and paper. Okay. So
God.
where we at?
Is that it for Last Night on Earth?
You got to give it away. That's a U2 lyric if I ever heard one, right?
Yep.
A lot of great stuff in that song. And now we can move on to the next track, which is
Gone. Definitely a top tier track. It is a really good tune live. I don't know that I've seen it perform live, but I've seen clips of it perform live. And actually I think the 2001 Boston show, really, really good song live. It's kind of this song where you're willing to kind of unapologetically and yet with risk throw away part of who you are. Again, not to give it away, but this song contains the best lyric of the album. If you want to break it down to how the band was processing this, it does speak about kind of where Bono was and where the band was. For example, just right off the bat, you got to feel so guilty, you got so much for so little, then you find that feeling just won't go away. You're holding on to everything so tightly till there's nothing left for you anyway. Goodbye. So he's wrestling with this whole idea of how did I, to steal a David Byrne moment, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And how is the reward equal to the output of work that I've, and to that point, this may be the key line in the album. The key line of the song is, you change a name, but that's okay. So, that's Paul transitioning to Bono.
So break that down. You changed your name.
But that's
No,
okay.
let's start. Let's go back. You wanted to get somewhere so badly, you had to lose yourself along the way. Okay, this is his journey to becoming Bono the rock star. He wanted that so badly, right? Is that too plain, too obvious? And then you had to lose yourself along the way. Again, it's that questioning of who is he really behind the rock star. Yeah. You changed your name.
That's okay.
That's okay. Why? It's necessary. And what you leave behind, you don't miss anyway.
Which is, this is, U2 does this, but this is a little bit of okay, this is what's coming 4 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. What you leave behind?
Yeah.
Maybe. Or did they, at the time when they released the new album title, was that drawing on, I mean, did they foresee that, or did they look back? Now we can talk about it because we're the Monday morning quarterback. But that is such a great little passage, that verse. It's so good. Goodbye. You can keep this suit of lights. I always heard that as suit of lies. And I think that's because it goes with that. Who am I really? You wanted to get somewhere. You became a rock star. Who are you really? What you leave behind, you don't miss, but it's a suit of lies. That's what I always heard it as. What do you think it is?
I think it's suit of lights, but I like, and I've kind of found myself in the same boat. I want to interpret it as suit of lies because it seems to fit more with the kind of the prevailing theme of the song. But I do think it's suit of lights. The one thing about this song is that you can either have the lyrics carry the song or you can have the music carry the song. This is a moment, and maybe this is why the song in my mind is, spoiler alert, it's the best song on the album, is that neither one of these they're equally carrying the song. So that goodbye, it's an emotional good night. I mean, vocally, he's way up there. I mean, there's a lot of passion and power with that. You're taking steps that make you feel dizzy, then you get to like the way it feels. The songwriting here is just excellent. And again, I think the song construct is just so good that the lyrics complement the music so well that it makes it the best song on the album.
That is such a great insight, that some songs are carried by the music and some by the lyrics and some by both. That's what makes a transcendently great song. This is another example. You're exactly right. I especially love the bridge right here. Check this out.
'Cause I'm already gone. Felt that way all along. Closer to you every day. I didn't want it that much anyway.
Because I'm already gone. Felt that way all along. Closer to you every day. I didn't want it that much anyway. It's another great example of the music and the lyrics being so strong, playing off each other, the phrasing, the way he paces himself through that. And that's just like that's the crystal of the song right there.
This album has it has different layers to it. So if you look at Staring at the Sun, where he's speaking in this, it's a very metaphorical song. This is the opposite of that. This is a kind of lyrically, it's a throwback to lyrically, not musically, but lyrically, it's kind of a throwback to Joshua Tree, rattle and hum type of songwriting where he's just cutting to the chase. And I think it's, I've gravitated to this song ever since it was released.
Yeah, I remember having this as my initial favorite, maybe because it was the most accessible. It had kind of a classic U2 sound. It very, like you mentioned, very anthemic. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's big and bold. And I also love the guitar. I saw someone compare it to a Tom Morello sound on the
Mm,
guitar. Almost has this kind
yeah.
of this siren-like sound, and very, very chimey, kind of a screaming sound. It's just
Yeah.
definitely, although it has a classic U2 sound and a big anthem type approach, it has a different edge sound. It's not that echoey kind of fast strumming Streets Have No Name. It's definitely an updated sound, but it has that classic boldness. It was one of my favorites initially, and of course, it still is.
Let's listen to the beginning of that song, to your point.
It gets to feel so guilty, got so much for so little. Then you find that feeling just won't go away. You're holding on to every little thing so tightly, till there's nothing left for you anyway. Goodbye. You can keep this suit of lies. I'll be up with the sun. I'm not coming down. I'm not coming down. I'm not coming down.
So the song is Gone. I love it. It's a strong track. I'm not coming down. This is who I am. I felt that way all along. This is who I always was.
Mm,
You learn to like the way it feels. That's some good. That's almost sexual. That's just
Yeah.
really good.
it's a
Um,
quintessential rock song. Not the lyrical composition is high level, but it's almost like a classic U2 rock song. And there's not a lot of that on this album because it's a different kind of U2 album.
Yeah,
It's just-
right.
Lyrically and musically, it's a throwback to I don't know. I mean, I could see this popping up on Rattle and Hum.
It's a musical. journey.
Maybe Octung Baby. But
I do agree with that. There's a lot of overtones of Octung Baby on this album too. I think you can definitely feel the thread being pulled through. Those three albums: Octung Baby, Zooropa, and Pop. But yeah, so this is a really good song, and I think that's because listen, this is who I always was, and the person that I became or that I put on for the public. I never changed. This is still Paul Hewson from Dublin. I'm still this person. So I think about that in terms of an evolving faith journey and the personal kind of changes I've gone through, and the person that I am now is kind of who I always was. I've been chiseling away things that I'm not. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody once said about, I think it was Michelangelo who they said, how do you create such masterpieces as a sculptor? He's like, I just chip away everything it doesn't look like David. Okay. That's a very glib answer, but the beauty of that is that I've been chipping away everything that wasn't my true self. And I always was this thing, and I've always been that. And that's the face I had before the world was made.
that's good. Yeah. I was just thinking about whether this would make my list of top 20 all-time U2 songs. And it might. I mean, it's like I said, it's spoiler alert, it's my favorite. So
Yeah.
and yet it's there are a lot of really good songs on the album. So to say this song is my favorite song on the album that's not necessarily an easy endeavor to reach that conclusion, because there are a lot of other really good songs on the album.
It's not obvious.
It's not like Zooropa. Okay, well, there's a foregone conclusion.
You got
And in
one great song on the album, right?
yeah, in my line, Octung Baby, it was like that. There's one that stands out. This stands out, but it's difficult because there are a lot of other good songs that I think were in contention.
Even as I sit here, I'm going around with my own choice that we'll get to later on as my top track on the album. I still could be swayed, and so I'll see what happens when we name those later. Okay, I want you to talk to me about the next track. It's a song called, what's that?
Oh, you don't, but go ahead.
It's a song called Miami. I think it's the worst song that they've ever recorded. And I think that partially I only say that because I get such a kick out of how much you hate this song. So, we have a good laugh about it, but I mean, what the hell, man? It's so bad.
I'll give it a little bit more credence because while I think the song is somewhat esoteric, I don't know, I didn't hang around swimming pools in Miami and dumbbells and diving boards and all that foolishness.
And a handycam.
And a handycam. I think on a bigger scale, it does speak to kind of it's almost like a little bit of staring at the sun. Do you want to hide yourself in the superficial and ignore some deeper things that are going on? I'd like to at least try to console myself in thinking that. But at the same time, musically, it just, the song doesn't do anything. You have to get halfway through the song before you even hit a groove. It's shallow. Yeah. Holy Joe would have been a much preferred option for me. Why do I need Holy Joe on this? I mean, I spent a couple nights in Cleveland, but I never thought about writing a song about it. What do I care about what I care about what they did in Miami for a week? And
I guess it's supposed to be some example of excess and of the lifestyles of the rich and famous and all that. And I think the idea of the song is much better than the song itself.
Very, very good point. That's an excellent point. And I
right.
That's succinctly what I was trying to convey.
You read the lyrics on the page and you're like, oh, that's going to be on the album with the other songs I've already heard. This is going to be pretty good based on the lyrics I see then you hear it and you're like, that's what they did with this idea. It's just so there like a lump.
Here's what they should have done is they should have recorded a 5-second snippet and said, for the idea that was going to be this song, please see Playboy Mansion.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Right.
Miami, my mammy. I want to have your baby. Some places are like your auntie. I mean, this is just bad songwriting. I mean, that's bad. I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, because you two wrote it, it's got to be good. I mean, that's crapola. So this segment goes out to the people who think that we're just fanboys.
Yeah.
So we're compensating here to prove a point. I don't know, but this is my least favorite U2 song, perhaps on any U2 album.
It is, and it pisses me off that it comes on an album of otherwise such quality.
Yeah,
because it is right next to Gone, which is arguably one of the top, arguably in the pantheon, and it brings down the whole album. Not to be over dramatic, but it brings it down a whole letter grade. I mean, it's just not necessary. And if this song didn't exist, I wouldn't feel like, I wish they'd plugged in something about, something.
Right. You never leave a U2 show going, you know what? Yeah, they did The Wonder, which was great, and it's a deep cut, but boy, I was really hoping for Miami. So do you equally share my disdain for this song? Or is my level?
I love to.
You just like to poke the bear.
I love to poke the bear, but I also do agree with you that it's garbage. I feel like it's not garbage in the same way that I think certain music is garbage. Like I think, okay, hold the phone, folks. I think Bon Jovi music is garbage, but at least I understand what it is, and it does that thing it's trying to do very well. It's cheesy 80s, big hair, pseudo cheese metal rock. And that's what it was supposed to be.
Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me how.
And that's fine. And I don't begrudge him that. And it is what it is. I don't think it succeeds at what it's supposed to be, which I don't even know. It's just such a misshapen like I don't even know. It's like they're just sitting around eating Doritos and said, "Hey, I'm going to just do a stream of consciousness and on my guitar and write this song." I mean, I lost track as I was going off on Bon Jovi. What was I talking about? Oh, I think that's crap. I think this is a different kind of crap. I think they were trying to achieve something here and don't achieve it. I think Bon Jovi nails it. That's what they were trying to do. And God bless them. They do that very well. I just think that thing they do is crap. I think that this is trying to do something and it wholly fails. I think Miami, they're trying to do something and they fail at it.
I will sleep better tonight, knowing that we have actually hashed this out instead of just making little anecdotal comments about it all the way. This is a big moment. We've actually maybe healing occurred now. But I think, in all seriousness, to your point earlier, and you said it so succinctly, the idea is bigger than the song. The idea is there. It's just that they didn't create the song to convey the idea. And so there are 12 songs on the album. Why not just put it at 11 and not even put the song on there? You're conveying the same idea. It pops up periodically in other songs up to that point. And if I'm going to write a song that's touching on subject matter that is already on the album, it better really be a good song.
Yeah.
Because if not, it's just a throwaway. This is not.
I
even
don't find.
It's like an F
I don't even. Yeah, I know. It's an F side. I don't find any lyrics that I want to pull out and say, yeah, but this is a really good nugget. I just don't. And also the music is meandering and it's annoying.
Oh, it is.
It doesn't have a hook of any kind, hardly.
Not at all. The music
And
doesn't
it doesn't-
really arrive until halfway through this. There's no groove there until you get to halfway through the song. And the repetition, got the car in the car chase. What's he got inside the case? I want a close up of that face. Here comes the car chase. That can work sometimes, but not in this song because it just doesn't. It sounds too repetitive.
I could do better freestyle rapping than that.
I bought 2 new suits in Miami, pink and blue Miami. I took a picture, Miami, getting hot in a photo booth, Miami. I said,
Bobby,
you look
no.
I said, maybe. Said, I want to have your baby. I mean, this is
It's drivel.
that's Bon Jovi there.
It's drivel. Well, no, I mean, I even gave it another chance because I've always thought it was really bad or just not necessary. And I tried to give it another chance and think like maybe I need new ears on it, and it didn't work. Let's go ahead and say I think it's like a low point of their whole catalog. It's one of the worst songs they've ever put out on an album. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. We talked about this with Springsteen's Queen of the Supermarket, which is on Working on a Dream. And, what was the conversation there? Did somebody go, Bruce, maybe just let's think about this one a little bit. Was Howie B or Flood or anybody thinking or saying, more importantly, guys, let's take a step back and just reconsider if we really want to do this. And if we do we really want to put it on the album?
No, I'm still a child. No one tells me no. Everyone needs a no, man.
Look,
somebody that's going to say no.
The truth of the matter is we've spent ever how much time we spent on this song has been too much time because it's unworthy. So take us to track 9.
Listen to the beginning of the Playboy Mansion.
If Coke is a mystery, Michael Jackson history. If beauty is truth and surgery, the fountain of youth, what am I to do? Have I got the gift to get me through? the gates of that mansion.
Okay, Smurf, the Playboy Mansion from the U2 album Pop. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I don't think you like it. I think we've had this conversation before, and my opinion of this song is higher than yours. It's actually kind of a distant cousin to Zooropa, the song, where you're kind of, it's that interjection of this pop consumer taglines. And it is, some of this is a little bit of a reiteration of what they've already covered. And that may be to a fault, but it's basically the bombardment of materialism and consumerism and the longing for something more substantial and spiritual in that living in this type of world. The music is it's got a great hook. It has a really good hook. And I think it has one of the, and again, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier about, and I can't remember the song now, but where I said that this isn't a great philosophical thought, but it just shows up and delivers really well. And that is, then will there be no time of sorrow? Then will there be no time for shame? And though I can't say why, I know I've got to believe. That is good. It's not like, wow, he's opened my mind to something bigger and greater. It's just a very beautiful and brief, poignant statement of kind of how a lot of us feel. I used to have it as a screensaver on my computer back during the days of Prodigy.
You did on that? You mean those lyrics?
Yeah, I did. It was my screensaver, and I used the term screensaver strictly. Not
Hey Don, I got to show you my new screensaver. I love that you texted me that. That made me laugh. It's a great, solid little thought, like you said, and it's just a lovely little expression of it. The sound, the vocal styling there, it's so lovely, and it's a great little coupling of, that very gospel thought. There'll be no time for sorrow, no time for shame, and I can't say why. I know I've got to believe. And we're reaching a resolution on this ongoing quest.
Yep.
The theme of this album, the crisis of faith, or the coming to terms with the God of the universe that either is one or the other, either not all loving or not all powerful. That whole conundrum and that whole grappling with your own faith. Although I can't say why, I know I've got to believe. So I like this song much more than I used to. You're right. We used to have kind of the conversation of, it's no good. The only criticism I would have is the very beginning, the little the Coke Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I know.
OJ, that's a little dated.
Yeah,
it doesn't hold up very well. Perfume, obsession, play on words. But you know what? I forgive that, because that is a good picture of the late 90s if you think about it. Yeah. I mean, it name drops everything that's in the public zeitgeist, right? So I do think it has some great lyrics, and I think also you're right. It does harken back to Zooropa, and also, how about the song Lemon? Banks and cathedrals. A man builds a city, banks and cathedrals. I mean, it has that same, it's a take on consumerism. I do love the fact that people won't know in future generations, maybe right off the bat, Playboy Mansion. Man, that was the thing. That was the ultimate. And even in the late 90s, it was still, the Playboy Mansion, ooh la la, right?
Pinnacle of excess, yeah.
The pinnacle of excess. The pinnacle of excess. And I love the way on this album and this song, the metaphor is that's heaven, or that's the afterlife, or that's paradise. It's a great metaphor for attaining eternal life or spiritual fulfillment. The gates of that mansion, and that little guitar, when the gates of that mansion, wow, that's great stuff.
It's like this slow dance, sexy kind of groove.
It is
sway back and forth. The hips are moving. This is another snippet of the song that I've always loved. chance is a kind of religion where you're damned for plain hard luck. I never did see that movie. I never did read that book. Love, come on down. Let my numbers come around.
Ooh, yeah.
Don't know if I can hold on. Don't know if I'm that strong. Don't know if I can wait that long till the colors come flashing and the lights go on. That's good.
It really is. It really is. This is one of the hidden treasures on the album, I think. Admittedly, it was not one of my favorites in the beginning, but this is one of those that makes this podcast so worth doing because we challenge ourselves to take a deeper look at songs that we thought something at, age 35 or whatever. And now in our 50s, we're like, oh, it means something different. And also I hear it with different ears. I appreciate it more. This is a really good song.
I'm glad to see that you have switched and come over to the.
Well, I never disliked it. I just didn't probably
that's
get. And I love We'll Go Driving in That Pool because the ultimate excess is driving a car into a pool.
I know. Right. Because I always wanted to, my brain processes it because it's a pool. I want to say diving, but it is driving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of, rock stars. It's a cliche of like throwing a TV out the hotel window or driving a car into a pool. And there's stories of different rock stars who have done that. And I think that's like that's a great little thing he slips in there. So that's the metaphor of the afterlife of paradise. We get to drive a car into a swimming pool. I kind of love it.
Track 10, If You Wear That Velvet Dress. So we kind of ramp back down into kind of a bit of a sexier tune here. I think both vocally, musically, and lyrically. What do you think about this one?
I like it. I don't love it. I appreciate it more than I enjoy it. Okay. It's haunting. It's dark. It's a meditation on sensuality, but to me, and I know it is a high quality song, but for me, it meanders. It doesn't get there for me. It's not a sex song for me. It's not one that I associate with somebody or something, and it doesn't grab me. What I wrote down to say is that it's probably better than I think it is, but again, it doesn't grab me in the gut. What do you think?
Is it a middle tier or a lower tier song for you
on this album?
Yeah,
I don't think I have a middle tier. I think everything on this album is either
good or
Well,
there has to be 3 tiers because
3 tiers. Yeah.
You wouldn't put your least favorite song on the album in the same category as Miami.
That's right. Okay, there are 3 tiers. This is middle tier.
Okay, I concur. It's probably, without splitting hairs, it's probably upper middle tier for me.
Upper middle.
Upper. It's the 30. It's the 65th percentile. This was one of those songs we talked about. This previously. It was recorded during the Zooropa sessions. One of the things that intrigues me about this song is his vocals. That he can on the same album go way up high with Gone, and then he can drop down to this very earthy, mumbly vocal range. Admittedly, some of that was probably assisted by cigarette use. If you take it at face value, for me, it's an incredibly sexy song, and I know it doesn't grab everybody the same way. And again, it's not the top tier song on the album for me, but a little gem I think is if you believe that this is sort of a love song that he wrote to his wife, "Who'll catch the star when it falls," I think is a nice little. The last line on the song is a nice little gem. The star being not celestial, but fame.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's Rock and Roll Doggies with Smurf, and I'm Jason here talking about If You Wear That Velvet Dress from U2's Pop. Now, this song has some really nice lyrics. It's well done. Again, to me, it doesn't grab me, but let's take a look. We've been here before. Last time you scratched at my door, the moon was naked and cold. I was like a 2-year-old who just wanted more. This is pretty good stuff. Oh, listen to this. Tonight, the moon has drawn its curtains. It's a private show no one else is going to know. I'm wanting sunlight. Sunlight fills my room. It's sharp and it's clear, but nothing at all like the moon. See, this is good. It's just, to me, ever since the Joshua Tree, when they released a bunch of B-sides, we bought the 45s because we wanted to have the B-side, Walk to the Water and Spanish Eyes and all those. We got used to there being B-sides, right? And when we talk about this a lot in our podcast, we talk about, oh, that'd be a great B-side. This to me is a B-side. It's worth it. It's valuable. It's good. It's just, maybe that should have been a B-side.
I would disagree. But then again, I say that, I don't know what else was, Holy Joe and all that other stuff. But I think we both agree that Miami doesn't belong on the list, on the album. So if you take this down, then you're down to what now? A 9-song album? No, 10 songs.
Yeah.
It's still doable. I probably like this song more than you do. But it's nice to have it around. It's not good enough. I don't go to it like Gone.
Yeah, I'm glad it exists.
I feel this very visceral response to Gone, where you just want to stand in front of the mirror and flex or something. But
is that what you do in the mirror?
What did I like this one. The struggle for things not to say. I never listened to you anyway, and I got my own hands to pray.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's this sort of carnal, very basic, primal kind of mindset that kind of is conveyed in that lyric, I think.
So it's a middle tier as far as this album goes. It's definitely not a bad song.
Nope.
It's not one of the great songs on the album, but it's like you said, it's nice to have it around.
That's all I got for this one.
Yeah, the next track is called Please. I know for a fact I didn't understand what it was about when I first heard it and did not process the meaning behind it. I thought it was good. I liked it. I now know it's about the troubles in Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Yep. This is, we talked about this earlier. I've gone to this song more lately. It's weird. I've been kind of finding myself in these, I'm not the flag wave the peace sign kind of guy, but I've been drawn to songs like Blowing in the Wind and songs like that now, because I'm trying to find some sort of resolution in my own mind and my own soul about what's going on in the Ukraine. This is a song that is really kind of moved up on my own top 40 list. It really speaks a lot to what's going on in the Ukraine to me. That's my interpretation of it. It was actually recorded in one take, believe it or not.
I did not know that.
And
imagine how hard that is.
I know. Moment of Surrender, I think, was done that way too, which is
that's what I heard about that. Yeah.
I can't. I'd love to be around when those moments. It's like Bono said, when God walks into the room. I love the passionate yearning of this song. That's kind of tinged with resignation, because you're pleading for somebody else to do something, which means you can't do it yourself. So you're having to resign yourself to finding hope in something else that's going to result in a better outcome. It's
something you have no control over.
It's a little bit like Where the Streets Have No Name in that respect. I can only do so much. It's all I can do. Please, please, please do this. It's all I can do. I'm begging you because I can't do it for you.
Which goes along with this album and the theme of pleading with the God of the universe, pleading with someone else in this song to do something because I can't do it myself. There's so much in here. The lyrics are packed full of references to the Catholic versus Protestant conflict.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that. If you look at the words on page, it's really thick. And your flying colors, your family tree, and all your lessons in history, that we're all taught a version of the truth of what history was really and what really happened. And imagine in the deep-seated conflict in Northern Ireland, what people are taught, their own version of history. Well, they're bad because of this, and we're right because of that. And we don't understand that. We only know it through the lens, mostly in introduction, at least by U2. The Troubles in Northern Ireland. What's that about? And I love how they're still talking about it because it's still part of the soul of this band. They're just a band from Dublin City, Ireland. So you never knew how low you'd stoop to make that call. That's another throwback to, a theme, or at least things they've talked about. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. That idea, maybe just coincidental, but it does talk about, like I have held the hand of a devil, things like that. But you never knew what was on the ground till they made you crawl.
Yeah. That's his songwriting on this album is it's a lot. Well, again, some of these songs were recorded during the Zooropa sessions, but that aside, the songwriting on this album I think is better than it was on the Zooropa album. This is some of the best songwriting, particularly if you break it down kind of snippet by snippet. It's some of the best songwriting outside of maybe the Joshua Tree and Achtung Baby in the entire catalog.
And when I discovered this album, it was such a pleasant surprise because I thought it was going to be just like Zooropa, but this was so much more.
Let's listen to this. I want to listen to it.
So you never knew how low you stooped to make that call, and you never knew what was on the ground till they made you crawl. So you never knew that the heaven you keep, you stole your Catholic blues, your Converse shoes, your stick-on tattoos. Now they're making the news. Your holy war, your northern star, your sermon on the mount from the boot of your car. Please, please, get up off your knees, please, 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 leave me out of this place. So love is hard and love is tough, but love is not what you're thinking of.
Please get up off your knees. Is that implying that it's up to us to do a lot of things instead of just praying for God to do something?
Oh, see, now you have to ask these tough questions.
Ah,
I don't have these answers.
I don't think we have to. And that's
I will-
kind of the point.
You answer the question then. What do you think?
I like that explanation. I think
Okay.
that's what I'm going to go with. But we don't have to know. We don't have to know exactly what the writer is thinking. Art is subjective.
There are just so many good little snippets in this song. Love is bigger than us, but love is not what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I found it hard to receive because you, my love, I can never believe. So I actually stole this off the internet. So I can't claim this as an original thought. Taking some artistic liberty here. September, streets capsizing, spilling over down the drain, shards of glass, splinters like rain, but you could only feel your own pain. October, talking, getting nowhere. November, December. There's a real nice 9/11 theme going on there.
That is very interesting.
Streets capsizing, spilling over down the drain, shards of glass, splinters like rain, but you could only feel your own pain.
But
Can't take credit for that, but
I mean, 9/11 happened 4 years after this
Yeah.
was released. So you think it's like a Nostradamus kind of deal.
yeah.
Or
yeah.
as Bobby Bacala said in Sopranos, Tony, Quasimodo predicted all this. No, you're thinking of Nostradamus. Oh. Oh, man.
Gosh.
All right. So we are about to
Did we finish
we're
up?
about to do the last track.
Okay. That takes us to the final track. That is Wake Up Dead Man. which in my mind is a middle to upper tier song, was originally, again, another one that was originally birthed during the Zooropa session. First line of the song is actually created by Edge during a period of spiritual and emotional turmoil. Here's something I found out, though, interestingly. If you look closely, and you have to look very closely, I just discovered this, but if you look closely at the lettering on the Zooropa album, you will see Wake Up, I think it's DE or DEA. And the cover supposedly shows the same for If You Wear That Velvet Dress. So there are parts of both of those titles that are on the Zooropa cover, because there's a lot of, so I just discovered this. So what happened was, in true U2 fashion, they said they gave, these are the songs that are going to be in the album. So the album cover then was created with a little bit of, with snippets of those songs visually on the cover. Of course, U2 pulls those back. They pull those back, and it turns out to be, it's almost like a precursor of what's to come. And I looked it up, and you can definitely see, if you look closely, Wake Up Dead Man is somewhere in the top third of the album cover of Zooropa. You may have to zoom in to see it, but I thought that was really interesting.
It is, and it definitely speaks to the thread that ties all these together. I think it's as close to an all-time great U2 song. I think it's definitely the top tier of the album. I think it's perfectly emblematic of this period of U2. It's full of confusion and desperation, and it's, like you said, what's the quote? This song, or this album, starts at a party and ends at a funeral.
Yeah, it begins at a party and ends at a funeral. That's exactly right.
So this song is a dirge. It's a cry for help. Quickly, if you look up, just real quickly, just go to the biblical reference for wake up. Wake up, Lord. Why are you sleeping? Rouse yourself. Don't reject us forever. That's from Psalm 44. Yeah. In keeping the Old Testament, Isaiah 51. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake. He's saying, the prophet and the psalmist are saying, wake up, God. Where are you? We need you. And in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus sleeping on a cushion. Yeah. And this is on the boat. This is before he calms the seas. Yeah. Wake up, teacher. Don't you care if we drown? They woke him up. So it's this conscious or unconscious idea of God, wake up. Jesus, wake up. Hey, what's going on? Hello. We need something here. And back to that ongoing theme of help us, God. Don't you care? Or are your hands not free? Which is a fantastic line in the song.
Here's what Bono said along those same lines. This is in the tradition of the Psalms of David, which offer an honest dialogue with God. I always wondered why David was so beloved of God. I think it was probably his honesty, because in a lot of Psalms, he's really giving out, where are you when you're needed? Call yourself God. Look, I'm surrounded by my enemies. You got me into this. Get me out of here. It's so direct. I think it's very important that people feel able to address God from whatever state they're in, whether that's devotion or anger, because both are present here.
Yes, and that's all holy. That's all scriptural, if you want to take it to that kind of terminology. The idea that you can, it's almost like Lieutenant Dan riding on the top of the ship in that storm in Forrest Gump, crying out, shaking his fist to God. You have to allow yourself the measure of humanity to question God, to shout out for God's help, and to express your own anger and frustration when God doesn't show up.
Do we think that when Jesus said, God, why have you forsaken me? I don't know that it wasn't probably spoken in the same way that you and I speak it. It was probably very, very emphatically and supernaturally conveyed to God in a high state of emotion.
I always felt like that was, and I think I was taught that was a way that we knew that Jesus experienced our deepest level of humanity and human pain and separation from God, because he took upon himself the sins of the world, and because of that, God looked away. And I don't know if that's canon. That's the way I was taught, and I believe that makes sense.
Yeah.
That he experienced humanity in the same way, the depth of pain. That I don't believe God forsook Jesus, but I believe the feeling was that way. So I'm not sure the machinations of how that all happened, but that's why I think he said those words.
I think it is on some level, and we probably can't understand it completely because we're coming from a human perspective, but I think it is the convergence of God, the perfect entity, meeting God / Jesus, the human being, and there has to be a convergence of that at some point, and how you deal with that. How is all of that reconciled? So for me, I think that part of Scripture makes sense, in that God couldn't, on some level, had to turn away from the humanity because of the sins that Christ was bearing, and being a holy God, he couldn't completely immerse himself in the humanity at that moment.
It's fascinating, right? Isn't
Yeah,
that fascinating?
This isn't something that, it's a very abstract idea, and I think into your believer, and then if you're a believer, it's still somewhat, well, not somewhat, it's very counterintuitive in a sense that God would turn his back on his own son, and then that begs the question of why, how could he, why did he? I mean, you get into some deeper conversations there.
Yeah, that's a different podcast right there. But what I love about this song is this part right here.
If there's an order in all of this disorder, is it like a tape recorder? Can we rewind it just once more?
If there's an order in all of this disorder,
Ooh.
you know, he's crying out for help, struggling, grappling, wrestling, but he's looking at this world. You know, he's not, going back a few songs, he's not choosing to be blind. He's not choosing to not see the way the world is. It's a fervent plea for God to step in and solve the problem of evil in the world. It's a fucked up world. There's no denying that. It's not an opinion. But I love the sarcastic, hey, listen, hey, maybe your hands aren't free. I love that. And listen, are you working on something new? I think that's just such a clever line. Maybe you're working on something new.
And maybe there are other people who felt this, but I've gone through periods, and I've read other writings where other people have kind of felt this way, that it's kind of like me and Jesus versus God. Jesus was human. I'm human. So there's a bond there that's created through that humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And your Father, he made the world in 7. He's in charge of heaven. Will you put a word in for me? So there's this, hey, you know, you and I are buddies, and there's this divide between me and God. And there seems almost like you think that there's this divide between Jesus Christ and the Father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not really so, but the humanity part of, I think sometimes, particularly in the past, not much now, but in the past, I've kind of felt like it's like, God, can you, I mean, Jesus, can you put a word in for me, because I can't get through? And you know what it's like down here. I don't know that he gets that, you know?
Yeah.
It's still
yeah.
actually incorrect, but from a human emotional, basic human level, I think that's relatable and somewhat understandable.
And that's why I think that's so good in this song, because it's breaking everything all the way down to that human gut level. I'm just a man. I'm not pious on this album. The Bono of these lyrics, this is not the piety of the, of the previous Joshua Tree, etc. And it's like, look, I am making the glib references to, maybe your hands aren't free. Hey, listen, hey, talk to your dad about getting me a job there, or whatever it is you can do for me. Can you help out? Is it like a tape recorder? I understand a tape recorder. Can we do that? Can we break it down in the most simple terms? Come on. Hey, Jesus. Hey, man, what do you think? I think you're exactly right. That's the way, at our lowest, most childlike level, the simplest understanding we have is that Jesus is like us. He's a man. He wore the flesh, and hey, he's also, hey, you got it in with God. Hey, he's
Right.
in charge of he's in charge of heaven. I love that it's like these words and these descriptions are so silly, but that's what I think it has to
It's
be.
almost It's almost very innocent and childish.
He's in charge of heaven. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Can you put a word in for me?
one of us.
And I love the fact that it's with a wink. We know that Bono doesn't think about that
Right.
way. But I love that he's able to make this cute song, like this song with like these little cutesy kind of phrasings on purpose as a sarcastic kind of way to say, hey, can you throw me a bone here?
I like the bridge too. There are lines in the bridge that catch me more than others. Listen over the rhythm. It's confusing you is another one.
Mhm.
The other line, I think it's in the bridge. I think that's the bridge. Is where he says, "Listen as hope and peace try to rhyme." And
Yeah.
then I completely echo what you've said. That is it like a tape recorder? Can that's hard to say. Can we rewind it just once more? That is it's in contention for the lyric of the album.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I don't
Because
know why. It's just so it's not deep, but it's just the way he conveys it is so.
the idea, this is almost like Job or other Old Testament prophets that are having this dialogue with God, that it's like, hey, well, is this how it works? What about this? I have this rock and I have my sheep over here, and I understand things of this earth. Is that how it works for spiritual matters too? Bono's like, well, is it like a tape recorder? Could we rewind? And it's just breaking it down to the most simplistic.
Yeah.
I love how is it like this?
Or is it, I mean, I guess you could look at this two ways. You could take that position that it's almost this taken from a point of innocence, or is it, and I think it may be both, or taken from a point of cynicism.
Yeah, I think it's both.
I think so too. There's this innocence. So, for example, in the first verse, I love this part of the song too. Tell me the story, the one about eternity and the way it's all going to be. That's so childlike.
That's so good.
And
It
then you
is.
get down
And
to-
he calls him boss. I'm waiting here, boss.
Yeah. And yet you get down to, were you just around the corner? Did you think to try and warn her? Or are you working on what to do? Now we go back to the cynical side of.
Mhm.
So I think there's a balance there between this childlike innocence versus this cynic.
Yeah, great observation. I also love I just love the way he delivers the word eternity. The one about eternity. It's just such a nice little way he treats that word. And he doesn't try to do too much in the song. He keeps it at a certain level. But when it kicks in, it's a little bit angry. It's very good. It's just very, very good. It's anti-pious. I think it puts a very good exclamation point on the album, and it summarizes what we've come to by the journey from song one till the end.
I think this song was again gonna appear on Zooropa, and they pulled it and put it on pop, and I think probably works better thematically on pop than it did Zooropa. Zooropa is more like a social commentary, where pop is this. It takes on more of a cynical view of the world. It's more experienced.
Yeah, definitely experienced and weary.
Yeah.
Weathered, cynical. Yeah. I got to tell you, I don't have my lyric. There's so many, and I thought it would occur to me as we were doing it. I literally wrote TBD because there's so many, and I'm going to have to choose one here in the moment. And I would feel good about it because there's not a bad choice.
You want to do underrated track first?
Let's go ahead. It's Rock and Roll Doggies with Jason and Don on U2's Pop. We always take a look at the standout track, underrated track, and best lyrics on the album. Let's do underrated track. I will go first.
Go.
Do You Feel Loved? I think Do You Feel Loved is so good. Take this tangle of a conversation, turn it into your own prayer. It's the first real deep dive we take into Bono's lyrics, his personal thoughts as being like, who am I? You know, what is my persona all about? It's just so visceral and so, I think about the relationship with the fan, that all is great, but it's so much fun, you know? It looks like the sun, but it feels like the rain. Oh, so choice. That's my pick.
I have a guilty pleasure pick. So I do kind of feel guilty for picking this because I don't think it's like the pop song that you listen to that has a great hook and you go, you know what? I know it's not fulfilling me at a deeper level, but
You know you're chewing bubble gum.
you're chewing bubble gum. And that
Yeah.
song is the Playboy Mansion. It's underrated because I think it's probably one of the lesser known tracks on the album for sure. So that's kind of went into my picking it as, you know, well, if it's underrated, then it's got to be under the radar. And it is. And I said it, you know, earlier, then will there be no time for sorrow? Then will there be no time for shame? And though I can't say why, I know I've got to believe. I mean, it's just a little snippet, but I think it carries a lot of weight. So
Yeah.
that is mine. What is your best track?
First of all, I respect yours. I've come to like that song, as I mentioned, more than before. And that's a good choice. There's so many songs I think that could be considered best track or underrated track. So my choice for best track, first I'll do the runners up.
Okay.
If God Will Send His Angels.
Is a runner up? Is that
Yeah, that's my runner up.
that takes the silver or the
Yeah,
bronze?
against the silver. That's
Okay.
silver. Okay.
Okay.
The bronze is Wake Up Dead Man. Okay. To me, those two and the gold medal, the standout track, which is Gone, those three are in a tier alone as the top 3 songs on the album. I think they're that high level. I would put all of those in contention for like the second tier all-time great U2 songs, just nipping at the heels of top tier.
It's gone.
It is Gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Best track, gone. So let me see if I would say Please would have meddled. And
Really?
yeah, I think Please would have meddled. And
What about If God Will Send His Angels?
see, you just
I mean, Wake Up Dead Man. These two are just so important.
I would say I can't pick between those two. Please would have probably been my silver. My gold would have been either Wake Up Dead Man and If God Will Send His Angels.
That's a fun exercise, and usually I don't have to feel the need to
Right.
name 2 others.
Right.
But I think this album is consistent and it's very dense.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of high quality, and they're not that different in terms of my regard for them. Okay. We don't usually do this, and we probably wouldn't do it again later, but the worst song on the album is Miami. Not even close.
Not even.
That's one of the worst songs ever recorded by U2.
Yeah. And what's worse is it made the album.
It made it. I have my favorite lyric,
Okay.
and it's looking for the baby Jesus under the trash. I mean, how can you deny that? If there's one thing this album is all about, that really expresses it right there, because there's a lot of trash to get through, a lot of layers of self-imposed weirdness or the world and its issues that are going on. You know, there's a lot of trash. You got to keep looking down deep.
For me, there was not a question of what would be the best lyric. I think there were some contenders. I think this snippet here is one of the best lyrics ever written by U2. There are some songs that they get to the heart of the matter without opening up this other greater level of consciousness.
Yeah.
This is the opposite. I think this is a gem of a wise lyric. And that is, you hurt yourself, you hurt your lover, then you discover what you thought was freedom is just greed.
You hurt yourself, you hurt your lover, then you discover what you thought was freedom is just greed. Goodbye, it's emotional.
pretty good. That's a good choice.
So now we come
Foot-
to album ranking. I think we're going to pretty much align ourselves on this one. Let's go back and see the biggest. We do this every time, I think.
Yeah.
War was a big. I gave it a 7.6. You gave it a 9. Zooropa, I gave it an 8.2. You gave it 7.1. I think we were closest on Unforgettable Fire was 1/10 off. Rattle and Hum was 2/10 off. Octung Baby was 2/10 off. I'm waiting for the moment where
Give it exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I have changed my number during this conversation, right?
I know. I thought about doing that, but I didn't. But I can understand why you would have done that.
Okay. I've thought about all the other albums that we've ranked, and I want to give a reference to this, not in a vacuum, but relative to my other tastes and rankings. And so I'll go first.
Okay.
Pop on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Pop a 9.1. It's a little bit better than at first. And listen, I came into this at an 8.7, and the more we talked about it, it went up, and I changed it to 8.9, and then it went up. I'm like, I can't rank it below War because it's better than War, and that's what I think. Now that my opinion on the song Please has gone up, and Playboy Mansion, I've gone up on that one. The only stinker is Miami, and everything else is either really good or good.
I feel like we were so close. We were so close.
If it wasn't for that damn handy cam.
The handy cam cost us.
That song is just a travesty.
I'll tell you what I gave it. I gave it a 9.
Oh, so close.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. We're so close. The handy. It all comes down to the handy cam.
It does. It comes down to Miami.
I look back though, and I think what I've kind of boxed myself in a little bit because I gave the Unforgettable Fire a 9, and
yeah,
it makes it difficult because you have one album and you go, wow, is Pop equal to the Unforgettable Fire? And I mean, ultimately, if I gave them both a 9, then I'm saying yes.
Well, I'm saying I wanted to not tie. The only tie I've given a perfect score, which is ideologically questionable, but I've given a perfect score to Octung Baby and Joshua Tree, 10. But I give a 9. I think my next down the scale is a 9 to War, and I'm like, I like this better than War. I think it's better than War, so it had to be.
Yeah.
It had to be.
The aggregate here now, 8.4 for me, 8.6 for you.
Oh, we're getting closer.
Yeah.
No, actually, not closer. That
would be cool if we finished with the exact same score at the end.
Wouldn't it?
That would be. It would be almost. People wouldn't believe it. It would be like it was scripted, but it's not.
It would. Well, it would.
But if it is, it is. I mean, we're not going to back away from what happened. If it is,
yeah. But what I think is interesting is that we've really helped each other to understand things that we didn't know before or think before. Like, I didn't appreciate a lot of things. There's very few things on this episode that we disagreed on.
Definitely.
I do like it when we disagree because that makes it more realistic, more genuine. But the further we get into it, the more we're, I don't want to say teaching, but we're kind of opening the other person's perspective up a little bit. Hey, well, have you ever thought about this?
Yeah.
I think this is this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it rubs off on the other person. That's why I think they're almost, it's like old people start looking alike the older they get, like, because it's like Milhouse's parents on Simpsons. Oh, I always thought they were brother and sister. So it's just one of those phenomenons. But I think it's what happens to us is that as we talk about these, and I want to be aware of that we're not just getting into some little circle jerk. Yeah. Little vacuum, little, what do you call it? Echo chamber with people of the same opinion. I want to keep it fresh, but we didn't have to fabricate any disagreement on this one. I think this was a pleasure because we kind of Yeah, we like this one more than the other person or less, but still. So yeah, that's it for now. Man, this is a really good episode. It's Rock and Roll Doggies, the podcast, two lifelong friends breaking down music. It's been important in our lives. For Don, it's Jason here. Join us next time as we get into all that you can't leave behind. Don, take us home, please.
All right. Thanks for logging on and listening to our thoughts on one of the most influential bands of the modern era. Be sure to follow us at Rock and Roll Doggies on Instagram and on Twitter at Roll Doggies for details about our next podcast and other tidbits as we take a chronological journey through the discography of U2. Until we connect again, good night, everybody.
No, it's a musical journey.